Hi everyone, this is Peppa Crochets. Welcome back to a new video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I created the Isadora Dragonfly Dream top. If you like what you see, please check out my channel. I have many summer themed crochet tutorials and a lot more on the way, so please subscribe and stay tuned. Let's get started. For this project, we're going to be using a 2.25mm hook. I also found these wooden beads at Michael's and I thought they would be really summery and cute for the strap area. This is the yarn I use. It's a beautiful warm blue color and a weight 1 yarn, and here are just some of the details of the yarn. We're going to begin our bust panel with 3 half double crochet foundation stitches. So you want to start with a slip knot. You're going to place a slip knot on your hook and tighten. Now we're going to do a chain up of 3. Then you're going to yarn over and place your hook back into that very first chain you made, making sure to grab both the front and the back loops. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through that very top loop, which will always be the foundation. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through 3 loops on your hook for the half double crochet. Now we'll always be working into that V shape right there at the back. So again, yarn over, put your hook into the front and the back loops there. You're going to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the top loop, which will always be the foundation, and then yarn over and pull through 3 for a half double crochet. We're going to be doing that one last time, so we have a total of 3 half double crochet foundation stitches. So 1, 2, 3. To begin our repeating row pattern, we're going to start with a chain up of 2 and we're going to turn our work. Into that very first stitch right there, we're adding a half double crochet. So you yarn over, put your hook into both the front and the back loops, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 3 loops on your hook for a half double crochet. Now into that middle stitch, the second stitch, we're adding 3 half double crochets. So here's our first. We're adding 1 more into that very same stitch. I like to add a stitch marker after the second half double crochet, just to mark and maintain that middle stitch. And once we do that, we're adding 1 final half double crochet into the same stitch. So we're increasing by 2 into the middle stitch. To finish the row, we're just doing a half double crochet into the final stitch right there. And this is the pattern we're going to keep repeating. So let's do that one more time. We're chaining 2 and turning our work. We're placing a half double crochet into that very first stitch. And we're going to half double crochet until we get to the stitch marker. So we remove the stitch marker and we're adding 3 into that middle stitch. So here's the first half double crochet, the second half double crochet into the very same stitch, and again I like to place my stitch marker after making that second half double crochet stitch to maintain the middle. And then I'm placing 1 last half double crochet into that stitch for a total of 3. Then I just half double crochet down the end of the row. So this is the pattern you're going to be repeating for the entirety of the bust panel. You can keep working and kind of measure the bust panel up against yourself to make sure it's giving you enough coverage. This will create a triangular shape. You'll see that in a second here. And for me, I just kept going until it reached about 6.5 inches in length. That was enough for me to cover my bust area. For reference, I'm a size 32A. So you're going to just keep doing this until it covers your bust. If you feel like it's not increasing enough, you can also increase at the beginning and at the end of the row. So to do that, you're just adding 2 half double crochet stitches into the very first stitch and 2 into the very last stitch, and that will kind of increase it a little bit more rapidly. So as you can see, it's 6.5 inches in length and width, which is enough to cover my bust. For the final row of the bust panel, I like to do an increase at the very beginning of the row and at the very end of the row, just so it's a little bit easier to connect the bust panels together. So to do that, you're going to do a half double crochet like you normally would into that very first stitch, but now we're adding 2. So back into that very same stitch, we're adding another half double crochet. In this row, I'm not adding a half double crochet increase into the middle, so you can just remove the stitch marker at this point. And you're just going to half double crochet until you reach the final stitch where we're going to be placing 2 half double crochets. Again, this just makes it easier to connect the bust panels together and to later make the straps for the back portion of the top. So I'm just half double crocheting down the row until we reach the very end. So here's our very final stitch. We're going to place 2 half double crochets here. So here's my first half double crochet, and now 1 more into the very final stitch. So we did 2. So we did an increase at the beginning and at the end. Now to clean up the bust panel, I'm just going to add single crochets along the perimeter. So to start that, we are going to do a chain up of 1. Then we're going to turn our work to the side and we're going to place our hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 for a single crochet. And I like to add 2 single crochets into the corner stitches just so it kind of makes it more pointed. Then I'm placing my hook into these stitches kind of randomly, but making sure that they're evenly spaced out, and we're going to go along the entire perimeter of the bust panel to clean up the edges. This will also help to round out that top portion there, which is a little bit funky looking. So we're going to go all the way around. This is what you should have at the end. As you can see, the top is more pointed now and rounded. To finish off this panel, we're going to do a chain up of 1. We're going to cut and pull the yarn through to secure it. For the second bust panel, you're just going to be repeating the same steps all over again so that you have 2. For the second one, I didn't do a chain up of 1 and cut because I'm going to be connecting them with that yarn. So you're going to place the bottom portions of the bust panels up top like so, and you're going to place your hook into the very corner of the other bust panel right there. You're going to grab the yarn and pull it all the way through to the other side for a slip stitch. This will connect the 2 edges together, and once they're connected, you can do a chain up of 1 and cut your yarn. So now the 2 bust panels are connected together at the edges, like so. And you're going to pull the yarn through. I like to make sure that it's nice and tight so it's very secure. So you're going to start off with a slip knot again, and you're putting your top facing, the back side facing you. You can tell because there's like that bumpy ridge from the single crochet we did along the perimeter. So I'm putting my hook into the very corner of the bottom of the top, and I'm pulling the slip knot through that stitch. Now we're going to be working our first row of the bottom portion of the top. So we're going to chain up 2, and we're going to be working double crochets down this row. So again, into that very first stitch, we're going to be doing a double crochet. So you yarn over, put your hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook, and to finish the double crochet, you're going to yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. And you're just going to be doing this into every single stitch down the entire row. And when we get to the middle portion where I did the slip stitch to put the 2 panels together, I'll just show you what I did to do a double crochet there. So I'll meet you back when we get to the middle. Okay, we reached that middle panel. So for this portion, I'm just putting my hook into that slip stitch right there. So I just kind of push my hook through right there. and I'm doing 1 double crochet into that stitch. And for the rest of the row, we're just doing double crochets all the way down the other side of the bust panel. I feel like I keep saying bust. Now that we completed the double crochet row, we're going to be working the peekaboo section of this top. So to do that, you're going to grab 2 stitch markers, and we're going to mark off where we want to begin and end this little section that's going to have a patch of skin showing through. So I just kind of follow the bottom of, or rather the middle section of the bust panel until I reach the bottom of the top, and I'm going to mark it with 1 stitch marker. And same thing with the other side. I'm just going and following that middle section and finding the stitch at the bottom. You can also definitely just count the stitches to make sure they're absolutely even, but I just kind of eyeballed it. So to start that, we're going to do a chain up of 1. We're turning our work, and we're doing slip stitches until we reach the stitch marker. So to do a slip stitch, you're just pulling up a loop and pulling that loop all the way through to the other side. So we're doing that into every stitch until we get to the stitch marker. So we're just going to continue until we reach the middle right there. Now I've reached the stitch marker, I'm taking the stitch marker out and I'm doing 1 last slip stitch, so pulling the yarn all the way through. And now for this peekaboo section, we're going to do a chain. So we're just going to keep chaining and kind of measuring to see how long we need the chain to be in order to reach the stitch marker on the other side of the bust panel. So I'm just going to keep going here. And I'm like periodically measuring to see how much I have left. And I'm just going to keep chaining until it reaches the length that will reach the other side. Once you have that length, you're going to remove that stitch marker. And we're placing our hook into that stitch on the other side, and we're doing a slip stitch. So you're going to yarn over, pull that yarn all the way through the 2 loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And that should join the chain to the other bust panel. And then for the rest of the row on the other side, you're going to be doing the same thing. So you're just going to be doing slip stitches all the way down to the end of the row. So now you have these 2 panels and this chain connecting the 2 panels. At the end, we're doing a chain up of 2, turning our work, and now we're doing another row of double crochet. So again, into that very first stitch, you're doing a double crochet. So you're just going to continue making double crochets all the way down, and I'll show you how I like to do the double crochets across that chain that we made. So I'll meet you when we get to the beginning of that chain. We've reached the chain. I've turned the chain over to the back side like so, and I'm going to be working double crochets into these back bumps right here. So I'm putting my hook into the back bump of this chain, and I'm just doing a double crochet. Again, into that back bump. You don't have to do it this way, I just find that it's a little bit neater. You can definitely just put your hook into the chain and make a double crochet, but you're just going to do that all the way down the chain until you reach the other side. So I'm just working into the back bumps, and we're going to keep going until we reach the other side, and then you're just going to continue making double crochets all the way down. Before we continue working on to the next portion of the top, you want to make sure 2 things. 1, you want to count up how many stitches you had at the end of the row, the last double crochet row we had. You want to make sure you have an even number of stitches so we could do that bottom mesh row. So if you have an odd number, you can just throw in another stitch into the very last stitch, so do an increase. Now we want to determine how spaced out and how many fireflies you want. So each firefly needs 12 stitches. So you're going to play around, do a little bit of math, and determine how far apart you want the fireflies to be and where. So for me, that's 19 stitches in the beginning, 19 stitches in the end, and 14 stitches between the fireflies. Okay, so now we're ready to begin. We're going to start by doing the double crochets until we reach the point when we want to make the head of the dragonfly. So if you remember the diagram, I wanted 19 stitches at the beginning and end of this row. So I'm going to do 19. Then to do the head, I'm doing a chain up of 2. I'm going to skip a stitch and double crochet into the next stitch. This is going to create a little hole, and this is the head for our dragonfly. And now I'm going to continue the diagram that I did. So I did 14 stitches between the next head of the other dragonfly, 14 again, and then 19 at the end of this row. So I have 3 dragonflies evenly spaced out. The second row will begin the wingspan of the dragonfly. So you're going to chain up 2, turn your work, and you're grabbing 2 stitch markers so that you can mark the wingspan. So you want to mark it off so that you have 5 stitches. We're skipping 5 stitches, and we're going to be doing a chain up of 6 to make the wingspan. So I like to mark the 5th stitch off the head on the first side, and then I marked off the 6th stitch on the other side. So we are having 5 spaces. This is going to make sense when we get to the stitch markers. Now we're just going to do double crochets until we reach the stitch marker. I've now reached the stitch marker. I'm going to do a chain up of 5, and I'm skipping 5 stitches. So I'm skipping all of those stitches in between the chain here and the head of the dragonfly. Skipping all of this, that should be 5 stitches. And I'm doing a single crochet into the head of the dragonfly, and this is going to create our first wing. Now I'm going to do a chain up of 6 again, and we're doing the same thing for the other side. So we're going to be skipping 5 stitches, like so. And I just marked the 6th stitch here with the 2nd stitch marker, and I'm going to do a double crochet into that stitch. So there should be 5 double crochets in this space right here on both sides. And that's our first wingspan. We're just going to do this for the other dragonflies as well, so I'm going to show you one more time. I'm marking the 5th stitch on both sides this time, and I'm going to double crochet until I reach the stitch marker. Now that I've reached the stitch marker, I'm doing a chain up of 6. I'm skipping 5 stitches, so I'm skipping all of those stitches in between the chain and the head, which should be 5, and I'm doing a single crochet into that space of the dragonfly's head. Now again for the other side, doing a chain up of 6. Then I'm going to be double crocheting into the 6th stitch. So this time I just marked the 5th stitch, and I'm just double crocheting into the 6th one. So again, there should be 5 double crochets in between in that space right there for the first set of wings. And I did that one more time for my other dragonfly. So this is what you should have. Now we're ready to start making the second wingspan, which is a little bit smaller. So we're chaining 2. We no longer need stitch markers because we have the wings to mark where we're going to start and end. So we're going to double crochet until we get to that last stitch before we have the chain and the space for the wingspan right there. We've now reached the stitch before the wingspan, and we're placing 2 double crochets into that stitch. So here's the first double crochet, and now the second double crochet. This wingspan is going to be 1 stitch smaller than the top wingspan. So instead of chaining 6, we're chaining 5. And now into that single crochet space where we made the single crochet earlier to attach the other wings, we're going to be doing a double crochet. So we're double crocheting to connect that chain to create the second wing. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, so we're chaining up 5, and we're going into that first stitch after the wing space right there, and we're doing 2 double crochets just like we did on the other side. So here's my first double crochet, and into that very same stitch we're doing 1 more. And this is how you create the second wing. Now you're just going to repeat that for the other dragonflies. For me, that was 2 more times. And then you double crochet to the end of the row. Once we reach the end, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. And now we're going to be working on the body segments of the dragonfly. So you're going to double crochet to right before the wing space. And in this chain 5 space, we're going to be doing 4 double crochets. So we're working a double crochet into 4 of the chains, so that should leave 1 chain space left. So I'm just putting my hook in, as you can see, and doing a double crochet. That's my second one. Here's my third double crochet, and then we're doing 1 last double crochet. That's going to leave us with 1 chain space left. Now that we've finished 4, we're going to do a chain up of 1, and we're skipping that last chain space, we're skipping that double crochet space, and we're skipping the first chain space on the other side. So we're skipping 3 stitches. Into that following chain space on the other side, we're going to be doing 4 double crochets. So just like the wing that we just did, we're doing 4. And that should take us to the other side where we can continue making the double crochets all the way down until the next firefly. So this is just going to create a space, and that's going to be our first body segment. So you're going to do that for the other dragonflies as well. This is what it should look like at the end. And now we're going to create 3 additional body segments. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2, double crochet, and you're going to stop when you reach the space right here, the chain space. So you're going to chain up 1, you're going to skip that chain space, and then into the next double crochet space, you're just going to double crochet. So you're just chaining 1, skipping that stitch, and continuing to double crochet on the other side, and that's going to create a space, which is going to be the body segment of the firefly. You're going to do that all the way down. We're going to do that for a total of 3 more times so that there's 4 body segments in total. So I finished my body segments. As you can see, I have 4 right here. And now I'm just going to add 1 row of regular double crochet. So I added the row of double crochet, and we're ready to start the mesh row. To begin the mesh row, we're going to start up with a chain up of 4, and we're going to turn our work. And we're going to be double crocheting into the 3rd stitch. So you're skipping a stitch and double crocheting into the next stitch. You're skipping the chain stitch connected to the 4 chain, that next stitch, and into the 3rd stitch, double crochet. Then the pattern for the mesh stitch is going to be chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next. So we're skipping that stitch, and into the next stitch we're doing a double crochet. And you're just going to continue this all the way down. So you're chaining 1, skipping 1, and double crocheting into the next. This is why we needed an even number so that we could do this row of mesh stitch. And you're just going to go all the way down. Once you reach the end, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work, and we're just adding a row of double crochet. I'm adding a double crochet into that very first double crochet stitch right there. For adding the double crochets into those mesh spaces, I just like to put my hook right through the mesh space and make a double crochet. If you choose to do so, you could always just put your needle into the chain space and do a double crochet that way as well. Now for the last row, we're doing a chain up of 1, and we're just going to be adding a row of single crochet into every stitch just to clean up that edge. At the very end, since we're done with this top panel, we're going to do a chain up of 1, cut our yarn and pull it through and tighten to secure. And this is what we have. Now we're going to be working on the ruffle portion of the top, so we're going to start off with a slip knot. So you're going to find that very first double crochet row that we did after we connected the bust panels, and we're going to place our slip knot through that very edge right here. So we're going to be working into these double crochet bars. I'm going to call them bars. So you see this first one is the very edge, and we're adding 3 half double crochets here. You can also do double crochets if you'd like. It would make the ruffles a little bit bigger, but I wanted my ruffles to be smaller, so I did half double crochets. So here's the third one, and we're doing that along that very edge right there. Now we're going to do a chain up of 1, and we're working into these bars. So between the 2 spaces right here, there's that bar. We're going to place our hook right under the bar right here, and we're placing 5 half double crochets this time. So again, you're putting your hook between those 2 spaces, and we're going to work 5 half double crochets into that bar or between that bar. Now for the remainder of this pattern, we're going to be chaining 1, and we're skipping one of these bars. So I'm skipping that next bar, and I'm going into that following bar. So putting my hook behind that bar, and I'm making 5 half double crochets. I did this because I wanted the ruffles to be a little bit looser rather than very, very tight. However, if you like the look of more ruffles and for the ruffles to be tighter, you can definitely go into every single bar. So again, I'm just chaining 1, skipping one of those bars, and into the following bar, I'm working 5 half double crochets until I get to the very end. When we reach the very end, we're not skipping any bars. There should be 1 left. You're just going to work 3 half double crochets into this very last bar, just like we did in the very beginning. Once we're done, we're chaining up 1, cutting our yarn, and pulling through to secure. And this is what the ruffles should look like. Now we're going to work on the straps. We're cleaning up the side here, this unfinished edge, and we're going to be adding a strap right where the ruffles begin. So I'm making a slip knot, I'm pulling the slip knot through. My top is right now backside up, so we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and it should be front side up now because you could see the ruffles. And we're just making single crochets all the way down this edge, kind of randomly, but you want to make sure that they're evenly spaced out. And we're placing the last single crochet on the top of the ruffle that we had just done. And this will clean up the edge. Once we get to the ruffle and the last single crochet, we're going to do a chain, and this is going to be our strap, and we want to make sure that it's long enough that it can cross in the back. I wanted my 2 straps to crisscross in the back. So I did a chain up of 150. That was long enough for me that it could go through the other side and do a crisscross. You're going to do the same exact thing on the other side, and now we have 2 straps. My top is the top side down right now. I'm going to show you how I weave the straps in. So I put my hook from the back to the front. I grab the strap from the other side, and I'm just going to pull it through. So the strap is going to go from the front of the top to the back, like so. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So hook through the back to the front, and you're going to pull the strap through. We're going to do the same exact thing minus the crisscrossing, but the chaining at the top here to make these top straps that will tie around your neck. So you just want to make sure it's long enough to tie around your neck. And I just added the 2 wooden bead details and secured it with a knot. For the final detail, I'm going to sew on this little Dragonfly Charm that I made. I'm going to be having a separate tutorial on how I made this charm. I actually turned them into earrings, but you can go to that tutorial for how to make the charm, and you would just sew it on to the middle portion here so that it can dangle. And here is the final product, the Isadora Dragonfly Dream Top. This top is just so unique and it just screams summer. I love the dragonfly cutouts and the little ruffle details. I just think it's such a flattering and beautiful top. If you decide to try the pattern out, please let me know in the comment section below, and as usual, I have many more tutorials on the way, so please stay tuned. Bye everyone!